No audio.
All right. I'll start.
Jamie, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Steve.
Okay, hi, Bill. I just want to make sure that, thank you.
I can
How you
hear you
doing?
as well.
Yes.
Hey, Dave.
I didn't think we had audio.
We do. Can you hear us, Jamie?
No, this is Dawn.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
You can hear us, correct?
I can hear somebody.
This is Bobby Cillian and Jamie.
Oh, hi.
So we're
Hi,
having
Bobby.
technical difficulties with the microphone here in the council chambers.
So I called in on my cell phone, but we're physically here on camera.
You can see us, and I think you can hear us on the cell phone. Is that okay? Everybody can hear us?
Yep.
We can hear.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to start the meeting and we're going to do the roll call.
Okay, roll call. Mr. Stillian?
Yep.
Mr. Price is absent. Mr. Marr?
Here.
Mr. Angeli?
Present?
And Ms. Upton.
Present.
So all here, we have a quorum. We're ready to start the meeting.
Approval of minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve. This was the minutes of April 12th,
Just
correct?
our last one. Yep,
Yeah.
just our
Yeah.
last one.
Correct.
I'll make a
I'll
motion to
second.
approve.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And myself, aye. Unanimous, motion passes. Public hearing. The way we do a public hearing is anybody wishing to speak in favor would speak first. Then we close the public hearing in favor, and then anybody wishing to speak in opposition would speak. And then at that point, we close the public hearing. It would be discussion amongst the board members. Anybody who does want to speak would give their name and address. We do have some correspondence, which I'm going to have Jamie read before I start the public hearing. But I'm going to open the public hearing and to anybody, and Jamie is going to start with some letters.
so we've received several, I'm talking on the microphone, but it's over here. So we've received several letters, and I've included them in all the in the members' packet, all of the letters that we've received. The first letter that we've received came from the Honorable Mayor Thomas M. McGee. Dear Chairman Stillian and members of the Lynn Planning Board, I am writing in response to an application by the above referenced property owner seeking approval of a proposed definitive subdivision plan. It is my understanding that the proposal seeks to create two development lots for parcels of land located at 585 Essex Street and 217 to 219 Washington Street. It has come to my attention that there is a question as to the correct location of the parcel boundary line, and further, that the proposed subdivision diverges considerably from plans presented to the public to date. Given issues related to the disputed property boundary and changes of this proposed project, I respectively request that the planning board require additional public process to provide the community with the opportunity to review and comment on the proposed subdivision plan and the associated development project. Sincerely, Thomas M. McGee, Mayor.
All the others are public record?
All the others are public record and have been provided.
Okay. So that's the only one we need to read because it's not the one that's been posted yet. So at this point, I'm going to start the public hearing. Anybody who has an open mic and has any background noise, you do want to close it, and only the person speaking would actually have the mic on. At this time, is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of the Washington Street one? Oops.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yep.
So
I'm
this
Attorney,
would be,
excuse me?
Attorney Vitale, go ahead. So this is for the Washington Street project at Central and Washington Street.
Oh, sorry, not me.
That's what I didn't think so. Plan 510. Anybody wishing to speak in favor? Central
Mr. Chairman.
Owner, go ahead, Kevin.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Rick Sell with Engineering Alliance. I'm here this afternoon with Kevin Procopio, who's the owner and the applicant of that particular piece of land. We had filed a preliminary subdivision back in August of 28th of 2020. It was approved September 22nd, 2020. The purpose of this subdivision is solely to free zoning. The applicant's embarking on a fairly substantial project, making a substantial investment in that piece of land, and we just want to make sure that as we proceed through our design phase, that the zoning will not change on it. So the purpose of this is only to free zoning. There will be no conveyance of lots. We'd be happy to succumb to a condition of that in the decision should the city choose to approve. As you are probably aware, you must file a definitive subdivision plan within 7 months of filing a preliminary plan, which we've done in this case. And like I said, it's solely to free zoning. This plan will never be recorded. It will never convey the lots. It will just simply be endorsed and sit in a drawer. And so the applicant can realize the benefit of an 8-year zoning freeze from the date of endorsement.
Thank you, Richard. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none. I close the public hearing in favor, and I open the public hearing for anybody wishing to speak in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to Plan 510? Anyone
Yes.
wishing to speak in opposition?
Yes, this is Ralph Floor. Do you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Get the name?
Yeah. Yeah, so
Yes.
my understanding is that the plan is to put the two properties alongside my building, alongside the building that I live in together. I have numerous concerns about that, which I've already sent in a letter, but I just wanted to reiterate them and provide an opportunity to respond if there are questions. And specifically, the property line between the two properties is currently in question. And so to me, it feels like an inappropriate time to be making a decision like this. I think that, first of all, we need to clarify the property line matter. But I think in the long run, we are opposed to the combination of those two properties for a number of reasons. The primary one is that there are currently two different zoning designations for those properties, and we're concerned that the inevitable future of putting them together would be to extend CBD to the property that's currently BD, business district. Our concerns about that are manifold. Primarily that would allow the developer or whoever owns that property to build all the way up to the property line of our building, which is a historical building. It's a 120-year-old brick building, and it would significantly impact the quality of life of us here. Currently, we feel somewhat protected, at least on the Washington Street, from the Washington Street lot, because it does not allow for as massive a construction.
Sir,
And
sir,
yeah.
can I just interrupt you for one thing? This is the Central Square project. You understand that,
Oh.
right?
No, I don't. I'm sorry. I was misled to think that this is a different one. I apologize, and we'll resume later when it's not.
This is our first.
They both have Washington Street, so that's why there's
Oh.
confusion.
Thank you.
But this is 510 Washington Street and 40 Central Square.
Okay, so, did note that, but that public hearing hasn't started yet. Is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition to the plan for 510 Washington Street, 40 Central Square? And somebody has an open mic. Is there anybody wishing to
Hi.
speak? Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Suzanne Hodes. Along with a number of other people, I submitted a letter to the planning board. So I'm not going to reread the whole letter. I hope it's in your packet and you've had a chance to look at it.
Yes, we do.
My main objection is to the process. I don't think there's been an appropriate time or notification of this hearing. Particularly the notice announcing it was only in English. And the area where this project will go up will impact many people who do not speak English, Spanish speakers in our community. I think we should postpone a decision until the process can be more accessible to the community. Also the time of day that you're holding it when many people are at work. Secondly, the community has just gone through a huge amount of time to develop a housing production plan that addresses many issues in the community. And I think that any new projects should wait for consideration till after the housing production plan goes before the city council, since the plan offers guidelines for new development and addresses a lot of issues. So I think that it's important that decisions be postponed at this point. But I hope you all read the whole letter. It goes into a lot more.
I've read all the correspondence before the meeting, including the letter from the mayor. I read them all, actually. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in opposition? Is there anybody else wishing to speak in opposition?
Yeah,
Anybody
yes.
else?
I do. My name is Chandra Slattery, and I'm part of Lynn United. And I believe that this should be held off until the Lynn housing plan is done and new laws are in place. Because, you know, that is a very busy area and it's going to cause a lot of issues in that area where it already does have a lot of issues anyway, with traffic and I think it should hold off until the housing plan is finished and not rush this through.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in opposition? Is there anybody else wishing to speak in opposition?
Yes, hello. My name is Adam Travis. I submitted comments via email about 1 hour before the meeting started, and I just wanted to confirm that you've received them. If you saw those, then I don't need to speak further, but if not, I'll offer my comments here now.
I have it right here. You sent it at 1:58 p.m. today.
Correct.
Yep. It was received and provided to all the board members.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a very efficient secretary. Jamie does a great job. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition of 510 Washington Street, 40 Central Square? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Hearing none, I close the public hearing in opposition, and I close the public hearing. I don't want to slight Attorney Lamanna or Mike Donovan, but if either one would like to speak, I don't know who wants to go first. Mike, you're usually my go-to guy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Mike Donovan. Speaking in regards to this proposed subdivision, the applicant has submitted a definitive subdivision plan after the submission of a preliminary subdivision plan. This process is dictated and outlined in MGL Chapter 41. The board has followed the process of Chapter 41 and advertising this hearing, making notification to abutters, and conducting the hearing. The date and time of the hearing is as per the board, and the hearing has been advertised and made public as required. This plan is being submitted for the sole purpose of freezing the zoning in the locations. Even if it weren't, as a definitive subdivision plan, the board has responsibilities to meet the deadlines prescribed by the Commonwealth. This is a process put out by the Commonwealth, not by the city of Lynn. This is the same process that every planning board in Massachusetts follows. So the board does have in front of it correspondence from neighbors, abutters objecting to the process. It also has plans that were prepared in accordance with the board's rules and regulations. To my recollection, no waivers have been requested on this project. So it's in the purview of the board to review the plan, determine whether it is in conformance with the board's rules and regulations, and then make a decision at some point, not necessarily today, to approve or disapprove the plans based on its conformance to the regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who, from the board, would like to speak, or Attorney Lamanna?
So I just concur with Commissioner Donovan that the process is set by state law, and there are time deadlines for this board to required to act.
Thank you, Councilor Lamanna. Is there anything from the board?
Yeah, I have a question for Mike.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Mike. You mentioned that this is going along with the state process. Okay, so in your opinion, or maybe this should be to Attorney Lamanna, I'm not sure. Was it advertised totally legally? Someone had mentioned that there was no advertising for this in any other language. But my concern is whether it was done according to the law or to the rules.
The advertisement complies with all state laws.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Lamanna. Is there anybody else from the board has any comments? We're probably looking for a motion at the table.
Say it again, please.
I'm sorry, Mr. Stillion, I have a quick question. Boundary lines is what I kept on reading about. And will that...
Who is this?
That's Dave Hanson.
Oh, Dave, go ahead.
That's Dave, yep. The boundary lines, Mr. Donovan, Mr. Lamanna, will that change the scope of this project if in fact that boundary line is moved?
If I may speak on this, Mike Donovan here. The boundary line issue is not on this particular project. It's on the third public hearing to be held on the Essex Street, Washington Street. But to your point, it would be up to the applicant's if the boundary line change the substance of the plan, such as a modified definitive subdivision plan would need to be submitted, then it would be at the applicant's expense in both money and time to proceed. So it would be up to the applicant at that point.
But this plan is not affected by the boundary line.
No, sir.
I have another question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Mr. Travis, who had put in a letter of opposition, talked about the, and this is the initial preliminary subdivision plan, talking about the, what he considered a waste of downtown space in terms of the roadway. Is there, is that something that's just up to the developer, or is that something that the city has some interest in?
I could respond to that, sir, by saying that it's private property and it's within there's no restriction against it in the city's ordinances, zoning ordinance, or planning rules and regulations about putting a road on your property that connects to the existing city road. Having said that, again, the purpose of this plan is not to build the road, it's to freeze the zoning for 8 years so that the developer is protected against any potential zoning changes.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else from any board member? I think we'd be looking for a motion to table if anybody is interested in that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. I call the question. Dave?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Motion passes unanimous. Again, same procedure follows for every public hearing. And I'm going to open the next one, which would be the Baldwin Street owner. And it is 5369-81 Baldwin Street, 3137 Buffalo Street, Lynn, Mass. Anybody wishing to speak in favor?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Rick Salworth, Engineering Alliance. Here again on behalf of Mr. Procopio, who is the owner and applicant of the property located at Buffalo Street and Baldwin Street. This is the same criteria as the previous discussion. I don't think that this particular property was the subject of those letters, the boundary dispute, et cetera. I think that's the next public hearing. Here again, as you know, separate from the subdivision process under the Zoning Act, the applicant's embarking on an apartment building on this property. Again, going to make a significant investment. Here again, we're here just to file a definitive subdivision after filing and have received approval of a preliminary subdivision, just for purposes of freezing the zoning, to protect the applicant's investment. So I guess with that, I'll turn it back to the board for any questions or comments.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Is anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the Baldwin Street owner, 53 and 69-81 Baldwin Street, 3137 Buffalo Street? Hearing none, I close the public hearing in favor, and I open the public hearing in opposition. Is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition to 53, 69-81 Baldwin, 3137 Buffalo Street? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition before I close the public hearing in opposition? Again, I'm going to close the public hearing in opposition for 53, 69-81 Baldwin Street, 3137 Buffalo Street. Hearing none, I close the public hearing in opposition, and I close the public hearing. What is the wish of the, actually, Mike, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, sir. What I said in the previous hearing applies wholly to this hearing also.
Thank you, Mike. Jim, do you want to add anything?
No, nothing on this petition. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. What is any comments to the board?
Question?
Steve?
Yeah, Mr. Lamanna, can you confirm, was this advertised according to state law?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Lamanna, all three of them have been advertised. The whole agenda has been advertised correctly.
That is correct, yes.
Thank you, Attorney Lamanna. Are there any other questions from the board? Hearing none, is there any motions we'd like to make?
I think I'd like to make a motion to table this because there is again, one, letter in opposition, to this. And I would like the, Lynn Water and Sewer Commission to provide their comments on the plan as to how they propose to do it. And I know it's to free zoning, but I'd be interested in what their take is on this.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, was there a letter in opposition to this project?
I'm coming in right now. Yes, there was. Lynn United
Okay.
changed.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to call the question then. Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Dave, you got to put on your mic. Dave?
Yes.
Yes, okay, and I am yes, it passes unanimous. Again, we're going to start the third public hearing. The applicant is 585 Essex Street LLC, and it is for 585 Essex Street, 217, 219 Washington Street. Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in favor?
Mr. Chairman, I'm Attorney Sam Vitale. I represent the petitioner. Rick Salvo is here. Add some specificity, but I can understand that apparently there's been a campaign of disinformation, misinformation, incomplete information, and ultimately, I know the outcome of this hearing today will be to table it, given what I've observed. Previously, I don't have any objection, obviously. The members need more time. Hopefully, the members will be able to separate the wheat from the chaff, the real from the unreal. And I would now defer to Mr. Fellow, who will explain that we filed the preliminary subdivision approval, which was up to me. We filed the Form C, the definitive, and that the purpose of this is solely to have a zoning freeze. And many of the letters that I saw talk about issues that are not within the purview of the planning board, not germane to the discussion about the zoning freeze. I don't want to belabor the point. I'm certain and confident that when the matter is reviewed both with Mr. Donovan, the law department, and the expertise of your members, you will reach the same conclusion that I have and others have, that the approval ought to be had. At this point, I will turn it to Mr. Salvo, who will probably just pinpoint the highlights. Let me just say one issue. We had the property surveyed most recently. No one has ever produced a survey subsequent to ours that shows anything to the boundary line. Engineering Alliance plans are here. Ralph Reed is well known in the city as a surveyor. He's established the line. You'll have disputes with the line. They ought to take the time to engage a surveyor. I saw a letter that referenced a 2005 condominium. We didn't operate based on that. We're not seeking approval. We're not looking for this business in the central business district. It's solely to freeze the zone. It's unfortunate that whoever is out there has reached the highest office in the city, in the mayor's office. But obviously, if the mayor wants the matter tabled, because I'm confident that a man of his intelligence will understand where there are red herrings and where there is accurate information. At this point, I'll let Mr. Salvo point to the accurate information, and then I'm certain that your board will probably table it, and we would welcome the opportunity to provide additional real information to address real concerns.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Rick Salvo with Engineering Alliance. We had filed a preliminary subdivision plan for this project in January 12th, 2021. It was approved February 18th, 2021. Again, this is a filing that was made under the subdivision control law. This is not a zoning matter. There's not a proposed development going on here. This is simply the division of land into two separate lots with a proposed subdivision roadway, specifically and solely for the purposes of freezing zoning. I do understand that there's been talk about a boundary dispute. Our our property line was surveyed by a professional land surveyor by Mr. Ralph Reed, who's well known in the city of Lynn. There is a process if there is a dispute of a boundary line. Typically, the property owner will retain their own land surveyor, and those two professionals will work together to determine whether or not there is in fact a dispute, and if there is a dispute, what the resolution of that dispute is. So this lot was surveyed by a professional land surveyor. It's simply a division of land to free zoning. It's not changing any zoning district. It's not changing any development plans, anything like that. It's just simply a mechanism that is an allowed process in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to file a definitive subdivision specifically and solely for the purposes of freezing zoning. So when a developer embarks on a project and makes a significant investment in a piece of land, they don't have to worry about the zoning changing during the process. I guess that said, I'll turn it back over to the board for any questions or comments.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of 585 Essex Street, 217, 219 Washington Street? Hearing none, I close the public hearing in favor, and I open the public hearing in opposition. Is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition?
This is Doug Troyer.
Hey, Doug.
Hi, my name is Doug Troyer. I represent the Slow Machinery Condominium Lost, which is the abutting property owner. I did just want to advise of some facts on what is going on our end. We did receive a survey from the developer. We actually forwarded correspondence to Attorney Vitale indicating that we thought there may be some boundary issues. They did forward a survey to us. We are currently in the process of having a survey performed on that property and are hopeful to have that done sometime this week, beginning of next week. We've also had and have reached out to have just conversations with the developer about the project, which have gone without any response to have a communication with us about what is going on in the property, because we are concerned about what exactly their thoughts are and what they're looking to do. We understand they obtained a building permit to construct a 150 unit residential and commercial structure. Unfortunately, we have not been able to have any conversations with the developer about the project and to have a neighborly conversation about any potential concerns. And that's really all that we are trying to propose here. But I did want to identify to this board that there is a boundary dispute. We are looking at that, and I'm hopeful that after we get our survey, that the surveyors can talk to one another, and that the neighbors can talk as well to see what, if any, issues there may be had in connection and work out those boundary disputes. That's our position at this time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in opposition?
Yes, this is Rolf Florigan. So, first of all, I'd like to apologize for having confused things. I was led to believe we were already in the other part of the meeting, and I do apologize for that confusion.
Not a problem.
You probably understand that people are quite passionate at the moment about the circumstances, and they may, in fact, lie outside of the purview of this planning board. And I will allow myself to be told that this isn't the place to discuss this. But we just would like to be clear that our primary concern right now is a change in zoning could lead to an even larger structure next to us. With the assurance of this board that that's not possible, but at least based on this process, it would certainly be easier to just stop at this point and take our problems elsewhere to the right setting. We are people who have lived here for a long time in a very nice building that we've taken good care of, and we're now facing a neighbor who hasn't communicated with us very directly until very close to the end of his process, and with very little ability for us to influence it. And we stand to lose a great deal of property value. So I imagine this board is at least cognizant of the passions and why they would be arising right now. I will, if you're telling me that there's no chance that this will have any impact on the zoning, then I can stop here.
Mr. Chairman, I can answer that. The purpose here is to keep the zoning in place today, intact. There's no plans to change the zoning.
So just for clarification, when you put two lots together and call it one lot, isn't that the point of this? To make it one lot?
Mr. Chairman, through you, the point of this is just to create a subdivision of the land. It doesn't change any zone lines. The zone lines are where they are. It doesn't have any impact on the zone lines.
I understand. Okay. Well, thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Hi, this is Dawn Marine. I wanted to verify that my letter was received for my opposition.
Thank you.
What was your name again? Dawn Marino. I emailed it this morning. Yep, I have it right here. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Hello, this is Mark Coda. I would like to speak in opposition because of the property line dispute. I think that the plan should be consistent with what the Registry of Deeds has for where the property line is located, going as far back as 1969. And the plans that they use are showing the same dimensions as they used for the building permit, which we're contesting. And I know that the bearings between the two properties are different. It's a small difference, it's probably a few inches, but the disputed property is about 2 feet. And I think the dispute is where the property lines actually are with, if they found like an iron rod to see where the bounds between the two properties are. And I would just like plans to be consistent with what the Registry of Deeds says and what we believe, that because there's a guardrail and a fence, and we don't want to have to pay to relocate them. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to 585 Essex Street, 217, 219 Washington Street? Anybody else wishing to speak in opposition? Hearing none, I close the public hearing in opposition, and I close the public hearing. At this time, Mike, would you like to,
Sure. This, as the previous two hearings, the purpose of this hearing is definitive subdivision plan showing two lots in a proposed roadway to freeze zoning. There, as people have mentioned, there is a building permit that has been issued on this property. But for the purposes of this board, its review, the plan has been designed in conformance with the board's rules and regulations. So, looking at the matter, the board will need to confine itself to its own regulations and whether the plan is appropriate based upon its conformance to those regulations. Thank you.
thank you, Mike. Attorney Lamanna, would you like to add anything?
Oh, nothing to add on this.
Thank you. Anything from the board? Steve?
Yes, we have a letter from the mayor, you know, requesting that this be tabled. So as a matter of, if this were tabled, will you, as the chairman, work with whomever you need to do in order to get these things on the agenda again quickly? I mean, Mr. Vitale has indicated that some of this is based on misinformation. Now, maybe that is just a difference of opinion on where the borderline is, and you know, dueling surveys, so to speak. But in order that this doesn't get delayed, will you be trying to set this up as soon as possible?
Yes, through the staff. We have an excellent staff in the planning division. I was actually hoping tonight that we were going to table it anyhow. Coming into the meeting, I think most of the members were planning on tabling it. But yes, Mike Donovan, myself, Jamie, Attorney Lamanna will be working on this as we work on every development expediently.
Okay.
Anything else from the board members?
Yes. Just to throw my 2 cents in, the existing conditions plan for the 585 Essex Street and Washington Street projects is actually stamped by a engineer and not a surveyor. So I would ask that the applicant, / engineer prepare a plan that is actually prepared and signed by a registered land surveyor in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The other 2 subdivisions that were before us, they had existing conditions plans that were signed by a registered land surveyor in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and I would ask the same for this. Thank you.
Will do, not a problem.
Any other comments from the board members? Any other questions from the board members? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to table.
We have
I
a second.
second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call the question. Dave?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And myself is yes. Passes unanimous.
Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to start the discussion on Kelly Lane.
Okay.
Mike, do you want to start or should we have Attorney Smith start? Mr. Salamini, who would like to jump in?
Mr. Chairman, Stephen Smith, I'd be happy to speak to the board if that's permissible.
That is permissible, Steve. Attorney Smith.
Thank you. Since our last meeting, I believe the board has received and has shared correspondence from a number of the local reviewing agencies. There's a letter from Commissioner Hall of the Department of Public Works. He brings out certain points that the work, if it's to proceed, will have to be undergone with proper permits, which is certainly fair and reasonable. He's requesting that as part of the project, the existing portion of Kelly Lane from Verona Street, there be grinded and overlay. He's giving notice that the new residents of Kelly Lane will be eligible to participate in the recycling program. That's fantastic. And I think what's typical of these types of developments is asking that the snow and ice removal be the obligation of the neighbors or of the developer until such time as the roadway surface improvements are completed. He'd also made a request for vertical granite curb as opposed to the slope granite curb that's shown on the plan. And in fact, it is what's required by your rules and regulations. And we respectfully request the board to consider holding us to the standard of your rules and regulations and not to the highest standard of vertical granite curb in this residential neighborhood. The board also received a letter from Lynn Water and Sewer Commission under the signature of Engineer Hughes, and I think that was actually dated back in February, which he had confirmed, having met with the developer and the engineer who designed the plan, in what she refers to as an in-depth review, and confirmed that the plan complies with the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission's rules and regulations and actually had no additional concerns with the project, at least from Lynn Water and Sewer perspective. There's also a letter from the from Mr. Donovan from Special Services, and I don't want to speak on his behalf if he's present, but I'd be happy if he wants me to summarize what I took his letter to say.
Please do.
He has requested, and the board requires that there be an easement for sightlines on across lots 6 and 17. And if you look at the actual subdivision plan prepared by Mr. Fair, you will see that easement is what's part of the proposed project and be part of the recorded plan. He supported the waiver for the increase in the maximum grade through a short section of the roadway, and also supported the waiver for dead-end street, and made reference, as the board's rules and regulations do, that would need to be supported by a finding that the greater length is necessitated by the lot slope and topography or other local conditions. If the board sees fit to grant that waiver, we would ask them to include that type of language in any action that they might take. He seemed confident that the site drainage met with the planning board's requirements, particularly after its review by the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission, and actually by an equally high authority, the Department of Environmental Protection, in response to the superseding order condition issued allowing the project to go forward, and recommended that the waivers be granted and the plan be approved as submitted, and we thank him for that. Prior to the last meeting where the hearing was held, the board had also received a letter from the Board of Health approving the plan as submitted. And so we think in terms of compliance with the board's rules and regulations and with the prerogatives of the local authorities who will be overseeing this development and inheriting this completed project, that we're in pretty good shape, and we'd ask the board to proceed with action on this plan and approving it as submitted with those waivers if they deem appropriate. There were also concerns that were presented by board member Marr, I believe, in response to this plan, and actually the prior version of this plan that had previously been approved by the board. And it's my understanding that those issued, and I think about them in communication issue. I wasn't part of that process, so I apologize for not having in-depth knowledge. But there actually had been a response filed to similar concerns raised with the last plan that was for Kelly Lane that was approved by the board, and has been resubmitted by the engineer who developed the project, who is available on this meeting right now and can follow through in addition to those being concerns being addressed by the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission, DEP, any other individual concerns that Mr. Marr might have. And so we're here to answer any additional questions that the board members might have prior to them taking any action on the plan. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Anything from the staff or board members? Chief?
Mr. Chairman, in the packet, you had included some draft votes that need to be done in regard to this. I thought that we had already kind of approved these amendments before.
The board has approved these similar to this on a previously filed plan in 2018. I believe the board approved it in 2019. Since that time, this submission has come in. This is a new submission on the property, and the plans are essentially the same. And this vote to draft vote has been approved in conformance with those plans.
So Mike, are you looking for these votes to be done today?
It is my
It would be
opinion.
whatever the wish of the board is.
Yes, it's my opinion, as giving advice to the board here, that we've come to the point where unless the board has further questions or has further information that they need from the applicant, that we should move forward with the decision, yay or nay, on this project.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I don't want any confusion. The draft form of motions are only illustrative if the board believes in its wisdom that the project should be approved. In no way is it a draft that is by any city official taking away your powers to decide whether to approve or disapprove this petition.
But Mr. Lamont, we would be looking for you to help us write the votes anyways. So I appreciate the fact that you've already done that.
Any other questions from the staff or board members?
Mike, should we take these up? I mean,
individually.
Should we take these up one at a time?
Yes, sir. Prior to the board voting on whether to approve or disapprove this project, the board needs to consider the waivers that have been requested one at a time, singularly. And we have put this draft language together to ensure that when the board does make a vote, yay or nay, on the waiver, that the language follows the proper format. If that's what.
Okay, Mike. Given the letter that requested not the, but the curves, the curb lines, don't we want them not straight up?
We want the slope granted.
That's what I meant. We want slope, right?
Yeah, there's damage to the other.
Yeah, I thought that was to our benefit to have it sloped.
Yeah, we changed the bylaws years ago to make the slope granted what we want. Mike, I didn't want to overrule you. Sorry. I've been around too long. What is the wish of the board?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add one point, and I'm a little tentative of this, and I mean no disrespect to any member of the board, but I'm not sure if Mr. Angeli had the benefit of being present for the public hearing the last time we got together on this. And if that's correct, I just asked the consideration that he may not want to participate in a vote, not having had the opportunity to participate in the public hearing. And again, I say that with the utmost of respect and not to offend anybody in any way.
Do I have a quorum?
Yes. Any other staff members want to speak or anything? Any other board members want to speak?
I'm prepared to move on to motions.
Go ahead. Whenever you're ready, Steve, you can make a motion.
Well, I would refer to the first vote, which is to approve the waiver in regard to the slope of the roadway. And it says to allow the construction of a roadway with a slope greater than the maximum allowed slope of roadway as allowed by section 7A3 of the board's rules and regulations. We've discussed that in the past. We know that there was a waiver required for that. I move the motion to be approved.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call the question. Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mr. Angeli?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. So the motion passes.
Bob, you've confirmed to us that that is consistent with what we've done in other areas of the city.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Donovan, would you agree with the statement I made?
Yes, sir. The board has given many waivers in regards to the allowed slope of the roadway due to topography and shape of the lots in order to make the project doable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, you want the floor again?
I'll make them a second motion then, which is to approve the waiver regarding the construction of a dead-end street greater in length than allowed by section 7A, 4A of the board's rules and regulations.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call the question. Steve?
Aye.
Bill?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Motion passes. We're back to you, Steve. Unless somebody else would like to make
Actually, I have a question for Bill first. Bill, did you get a response to your concerns at the last meeting?
Well, I don't think it was for the last meeting, but I got some responses to some of the comments that I had requested some further clarification on.
Okay.
I don't think it's all there, but I think some of it could still be updated, but I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not in opposition to the project. I'm just looking for it to be compliant in my eyes, and it is. But I think some of the drainage could be done a little bit differently. But all in all, the Lynn Water and Sewer is taking responsibility for it. They've approved it. And so I defer to them.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Bob, then I'm going to move the third motion, which is to approve the Kelly Lane Extension subdivision. That's the whole motion, as far as I can see.
Yep. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I close it and I call the question. Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And Dave?
Yes.
And myself is yes. Motion passes.
Thank you all very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Yep. And now we're going to move on to Ocean
View. Yep, yes.
Mike?
It's Ocean View Estates. Glen Court Road is a subdivision that's been in front of the board since 2014. The majority, and the board has been holding $274,000 in a performance guarantee, and the applicant has asked that because the completion of the work has reached a certain point, that the release of funds occur to allow the applicant to take the money from the performance guarantee. And we've drawn up a new performance guarantee, which has about $37,000 left, which has the rest of the tasks that are still to be done: grass plots, trees, and the as-built plans, and the property line markers to mark out the street that's stone bounds. So I prepared a performance guarantee, and I'm respectfully requesting the board to vote to approve that performance guarantee, which in essence releases approximately $230,000 back to the applicant so that he can compensate or do what he needs to do in regards to paying his vendors as the work has been completed.
Thank you, Mike. Anything from the board?
Nope.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call the question. Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And Dave?
Yes.
And myself is yes. Motion passes.
Could I ask Attorney Lamanna a question? Should I have the members come down and sign this document? Because I only have Chairman Stillian with me. We're all remote.
If there's a vote to authorize you to sign on their behalf, that would be appropriate. But absent that vote, they should come to sign.
I think we need a vote unless they want to come down.
Unless you want to come down, we would need a vote to that affirmative.
Hi, can I come down tomorrow, or do you want me to come down later on today?
Oh, tomorrow will be fine.
Okay.
Or today, whenever you want.
How late is, are you there till 8, Jamie?
8?
Yes. I have conservation, but I'll leave it for you.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. I will, I'll come down tonight and sign it.
My only problem is I'm out of town until Sunday.
Steve, are you fine?
Well, I can come down, but if Dave can't make it, then why don't we just do a vote to approve it from this meeting?
And have Jamie sign for you.
And have Jamie sign for me.
Hey, is that a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. I'll second.
Motion made, seconded. Any discussion on the motion? I call the question. Steve?
Yes.
Up, Dave?
We have some discussion, sorry. Mr. Lamanna, is this just for this signature?
Yes.
Not moving forward?
That's the motion before you today. I'd recommend that it go on a case-by-case basis rather than a blanket authority.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just wanted some clarification. I'm a yes.
Okay, Steve,
Yes?
Yes.
and Dave, you a yes, and I'm a yes. Motion passes. Is there anything else the board or the staff would like to bring up?
So I don't need to come down tonight then, Jamie?
You don't have to unless you want to. You're still welcome to.
Yeah, I might do it, sure.
Okay,
I'll still stop by.
come into the inspectional division, which is 103, because I'll be in my conservation meeting.
Okay.
I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet.
If you come before 6:30, I'll be in my office, but after that, I'll be in conservation.
Yeah,
But it'll be in her office.
Yep, no, I'll be there before 6:30.
Okay, very good.
Is there anything else we'd like to bring before the board? Any other business?
No, sir.
Oh, so, as requested, Bob, are you going to try and get these on the agenda soon?
Yes. Through the excellent staff we have with Mike Donovan and Attorney Lamanna and Jamie, we will get it moved right along.
I mean, we know that there's a lot of, letters in opposition, but nonetheless, we still have state law that we have to follow.
Yeah, there's a clock running, and we have to make sure we perform. Otherwise, we're putting a lot of things in jeopardy.
Right.
Mike, Jim, anybody?
And I understand that, but, considering, what is happening or the concerns of the property line, and right now the plan that they submitted to us is signed by their professional engineer. They need to get that, done by a registered land surveyor to get it straightened out. That's what they need to do first and foremost.
And I believe, I don't want to put words in the mouth, but I believe that's what they told us they were doing.
Yes. Yes.
Unless Mike or Jim has something else to add. Go ahead, Bill.
But no, and I'm not sure why they went that route rather than, like the other two earlier subdivisions that we heard. Like I said, there were existing conditions plans prepared and stamped by a registered land surveyor. In this case, they didn't do that, so I'm not sure why. But they, as a teacher used to say to me years ago, it would behoove them to do that, considering all the opposition that they have against us.
Didn't they state that they had a surveyor do it?
I believe they did, but
they did, but if
they didn't
you look
produce
at,
it.
Yeah, if you look at sheet 2,
they just haven't submitted the plans yet.
Existing conditions plan is stamped by their engineer Dave Salvo, and that's he shouldn't be doing that, in my opinion.
Okay.
If there's nothing else from the staff, what is the wish of the board?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Motion made, second, non-debatable. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and thank you for the staff. Great job.
Okay.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Guys.
Take care.
Is convenient, in person.